no one is good enough for my daughter.
Okay, settle down, honey. The last time you got this fired up making an Oilers video, I wound up pregnant.
So a couple weeks ago, my lovely wife gave birth to our third child. So I've been off work for 2 weeks. And actually, I only work 2 days in December. So I'll be off for a good long while. And it has been really exciting. And by exciting, I mean exhausting. And it might kill me. I'm just kidding, but not really. Now, we named our precious little daughter Penelope Lane. Now, I really started to like this name back in the spring when I was reading the Odyssey. In this epic adventure, Penelope is the wife of Odysseus. Odysseus has been away from home for 20 years, 10 of them at war, and another 10 trying to find his way home because he refused to ask for directions. Despite his ridiculously long absence, Penelope remains faithful, even though there are many potential suitors aggressively trying to take Odysseus' place as her spouse. Right now, there are a lot of teams aggressively trying to take the Oilers' place at the top of the Pacific Division. The gap separating first from sixth is just 7 points, which is why the team's victory on Sunday night over arch rival Vancouver was so important. And quite honestly, for me, was the final vindication of my preseason prediction that they would make the playoffs. See, there has not been a single Oilers team over the last 13 years that has been able to overcome a long-term injury to a key player. Whether it was Ales Hemsky, Ryan Whitney, Taylor Hall, there'll be more on him later, Connor McDavid, or Oscar Klefbom, the team has never been able to even come close to breaking even when one of these guys got hurt. Yet, this year, the Oilers managed to go 13-6-3 with Adam Larsson out of the lineup. And almost immediately after he returned, Nugent Hopkins went down, which was an even bigger blow due to the Oilers' lack of forward depth, and yet they've gone 2-2 in his absence. And there are two main reasons for this. The first is Dave Tippett. At a time where coaches are under more scrutiny than ever, Edmonton has nothing to worry about here. I can't think of a single player on the Oilers' current roster that has been ostracized by the coach. He encourages his players and he finds roles for them to contribute to the team's success. Case in point, last year the Oilers had record-breaking offensive futility from their bottom six forwards. It was so bad, most of these guys are no longer in the NHL or were picked up by the Calgary Flames. At a quick glance, it would appear that this year's depth forwards are just as bad as last year's, particularly Riley Sheahan and Josh Archibald, who both have only 1 point in a combined 44 games played this year. However, despite the fact that both of these guys have missed some time due to injury, they are the forward leaders in ice time on the NHL's second best penalty killing unit. Normally, in a hockey-crazed market like Edmonton, these guys would be relentlessly criticized for their lack of offense. But because Tippett has given them a role that they are thriving in, they're a couple of unsung heroes for this team. Now, since I've been home for a little bit here, I have had to take on some of the duties that my wife normally takes care of. One of them being taking our 6-year-old daughter to school. Despite the fact that I wake her up in plenty of time to get dressed, eat breakfast, go to the bathroom, get bundled up and out the door to school, we are always scrambling to get there on time. I will send her to the bathroom to go poop while I get her lunch ready, and when I come up to get her a few minutes later, she's read 5 Fancy Nancy books and the toilet's empty. It takes her forever to do anything because she can't stay focused. I actually read an excellent book earlier this year called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And in it, he talks about how to have success in a distracted world. He basically says that when you get to work on something, if you eliminate all distractions and maintain razor-sharp focus, you will produce the highest quality work possible. This is pretty much the only reason I have time to blog, when I have to spend so much time keeping my daughter on task. Which brings me to the second reason that the Oilers are leading the Pacific this late into the season. McDavid and Draisaitl are the most dialed in, driven to accomplish their goal duo since Jake and Elwood back in the 80s.
They're not gonna catch us. We're on a mission from God.
My son is just loving McDavid more and more all the time. And every morning after the Oilers have played, I will tell him if they won or lost the night before. And the only question out of his mouth is, did Connor McDavid score? And the only answers I've given him are either yes or no, but he assisted them all. It is very clear that Connor and Leon are ticked off from the last 2 seasons and are highly motivated to be back in the playoffs come April. They are absolutely destroying the league right now. And I know unsustainable gets thrown around a lot, but these guys have been so good. Who is going to stop them? Speaking of stopping, can we please stop the Taylor Hall to Edmonton talk? I don't want to be misunderstood here, because I know that even though he's been gone for over 3 years, this is still a sensitive topic amongst Oilers fans. So let's forget for a moment about what former teammates have said about him. Let's forget about his team's history of success in the draft lotteries. Let's forget about all the fired coaches. Let's just pretend that this is a high-end player that's come available that the Oilers have absolutely no history with. First of all, the Oilers have less than $2 grand in cap space. So if they're going to trade for him, they absolutely must send money back the other way. So they would need to trade one of these players back. And you're not trading any of these guys. And New Jersey would have no interest in these guys. So that leaves Larson. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to bring up the history, but I mean, come on. They're not going to do that. I didn't include Gagner and Nurse in this because they don't make enough money to bridge that gap. Now, if New Jersey decided that, yeah, they're going to take some bad money, the Oilers would have to throw in a big-time sweetener. After all the difficult seasons we've endured, to see Edmonton finally stock up their blue line prospects, they should not be trading away those assets. It gets even more ridiculous if you start talking about an extension. I relentlessly mock the Leafs for having so much money tied up in 3 forwards because it's a bad idea. Hall is going to command $10+ million on the open market. How on earth do you justify paying him more than the second leading scorer in the league? And if for some foolish reason they do decide to invest that money, you don't want there to be any risk involved. Which brings me to my second point. Hall has a history of injuries that becomes more concerning with each passing year. This is his 10th NHL season and he's played 82 games once. He's only played more than 70 games 4 times. Look, durability is not a skill, but it's extremely valuable. Hall is 28 years old right now. What's a long-term deal going to look like when he hits 30? Because look, I'm 34, and I can tell you there's a reason they call it the dirty 30s. It's because your body just doesn't heal like it used to. And, oh, my back is seizing up. Oh. Okay. It's gone. Where was I? Oh, and third, and finally, I like to think I'm a pretty self-aware guy. For example, I'm balding. I know this. I would know this even if my friends and family didn't remind me of it frequently. And this self-awareness touches all areas of my life, including my fandom of the Oilers. I know what this team is. They are a team that can sneak into the playoffs in a wild card spot. That's it. They're not at the same level as teams like Boston, St. Louis, Washington, and even the Islanders. Now is not the time for the Oilers to cash in their chips and go for it. This is just my opinion, but the only way I look at bringing Taylor Hall back is if you can make a pitch to him in the summer, similar to what Detroit did with Hossa back in 2008, where you say, look, here's $7 million for 1 year. Why don't you try and come win a cup with us? Ken Holland's the guy who did that back then, so you never know. Feel free to leave your thoughts, and I will try to respond to them between diaper changes. I'll see you next time.